In this section of the unit, we're going to focus on subsection 6.3, entitled Temperature Scale. Students will be expected to read a thermometer. So let's begin by looking at how you would make a thermometer. In order to make a thermometer, you need to have two fixed points of temperatures of the body that you're taking the temperature of. So in order to make a thermometer, you need to identify two fixed points on the thermometer which relates to the temperature of the body. And this must be marked on a thermometer scale board. So the distance between the two fixed points, they must be divided by sections of equal lengths. And these two fixed points, they are the lower fixed point, which would, in the case of ice or water, this would represent the melting point of ice. In other words, ice melts at a temperature of 0 degrees Celsius. And you could also have an upper fixed point, which would represent the boiling point of water at sea level, and that would be 100 degrees Celsius, which is the temperature that the water will boil. Essentially what you're doing is that you're marking out the fixed points of temperatures relating to the temperature at which water freezes, so that will be identified as the lower fixed point or the melting point of ice, and you would mark that out on a card, and then you'd have the upper fixed point, which is the temperature at which the water boils, and so you'd mark that out also on a card. So the three common temperature scales are the Celsius scale, which is 0 degrees in terms of the lower fixed point, and 100 degrees, which is the upper fixed point. And then for the Fahrenheit scale, you have the lower fixed point of 32 degrees Fahrenheit and the upper fixed point of 212 degrees Fahrenheit. And for the Kelvin scale, you have the lower fixed point of 273 degrees and the upper fixed point of 373 degrees for the Kelvin scale. What you would do now, if you look at the diagram, is you just put these all side by side. And so in the diagram, what you would have is for the corresponding upper fixed point for the Celsius thermometer, which is 100 degrees Celsius, that corresponds to the upper fixed point of 373 Kelvin for the Kelvin thermometer and 212 degrees Fahrenheit for the Fahrenheit thermometer. And in terms of the corresponding lower fixed point for 0 degrees for the Celsius thermometer, that would correspond to 273 Kelvin for the Kelvin thermometer and 32 degrees Fahrenheit for the Fahrenheit thermometer. And you can see here that as we go below 0 degrees Celsius, we can show the corresponding points for various temperatures in degrees Celsius in terms of how they relate to temperatures in Kelvin and temperatures in Fahrenheit. So how do you read a thermometer? So to read a thermometer is quite straightforward. For example, if we have this diagram representing the temperature scale in Celsius, in other words, the Celsius thermometer, all you would do is to determine the reading, for example, at this point here, you would just look at the corresponding value for the temperature in Celsius as it corresponds to the level of the actual liquid inside the thermometer. So here you can see that this would represent 50 degrees Celsius. This area here would represent 20 degrees Celsius, and this would represent 0 degrees Celsius. So that's how you would read a thermometer, just aligning your eyes along the level of the liquid in the thermometer and then looking at the corresponding value in terms of the reading in degrees Celsius. In order to convert temperature scales from, for example, Fahrenheit to Celsius, or Celsius to Fahrenheit, or even Celsius to Kelvin, we can use a series of